Shohei Ohtani, he just bought himself a house in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, which is a beautiful community in Los Angeles, but it's very inland, right? So the reason why I want to toot my own horn is because when I said and predicted with Nick that if he was to stay at the Angels, this was about 3 months before the contract went forward. We said we didn't expect him, if he was going to stay in Orange County, to live along the beach. We thought, based on his personality, probably be more inland, which would be Irvine.
I went back and watched the tape. I don't understand why you're saying you got the prediction right, because your prediction was that he stays with the Angels. The parent prediction was wrong.
No. I said assuming he stays at the Angels.
There you go. That was your problem right there.
It's the same thing though. It's assuming because I'm not going to predict he's going to buy in LA if I didn't know he was going to not move to LA. Really beautiful house with the pool and very private. So you got the stone wall here, which is really cool. And the type of design and architecture is timeless piece. A lot of people love it. It's got those earth tones, but at the same time, it's very indoor-outdoor living.
It's fit for a baseball player. There's no question about that. I think it looks beautiful. And obviously enough closet space for all his jerseys. And he's married, right?
His wife now, yeah.
3 balls, 2 strikes, pressure is on. This is where we discuss real estate, property improvement, and business. Together, we'll strategize on how to win. Welcome to Full Count.
Welcome back, everyone, on Full Count Podcast. Chris and I will be discussing Shohei Ohtani's recent LA purchase, among other things like abandoned mansions, zombie mansions, and amongst other celebrity mansions that are no longer have anyone in it. So with that being said, Chris, how's everything going with you today, man?
Everything's good. Happy Memorial Day.
Right.
It's a big shout out to all the people who, sacrificed, and also the prisoners of war.
Yep.
But big shout out. There's always seems to be a lot of outrage these days. I don't know. I think it's just people wanting to be right about something, because some people, for example, that aren't really familiar with the military may say, thanks so much to our veterans. And then there's always people that are like, well, actually, it's not the alive veterans, and so there becomes that.
Yeah.
That kind of that narcissistic thing where you have to correct people about everything, Most people respect the individual, that is trying to do something for, what they feel is the greater good. And of course, it's a lot easier for us to look back and to like 1940s and even the Korean War and really have a lot of respect for those folks, because I think there was a lot less nuance about what's right and wrong looking back to those times than there is today. But obviously, I'm a veteran, but obviously,
big shout out to you too, for sure.
Not at all, but look, respect to everybody.
Still, you serve, so it means something,
right? And just respect to everybody trying to be part of something bigger than themselves, I think, is the thing. Doing something for your country or your community, even. You are sacrificing yourself a little bit. So,
well, this will probably come out a few days after, but I think at any given day, people should be thanking the veterans, regardless of it being a holiday, especially, how things are going right now too. You just never know.
Right.
So to kick it off though, with Shohei Ohtani, I'd like to actually wait. Let me take a step back. Kurt Hader is in Mexico now. He's playing baseball as a pitcher. Some of you already know who he is. He's been on the podcast. That's why I'm rocking his Saltillo jersey.
Oh,
so Saltillo's in Mexico. Yep. This coming week, he'll be playing Mexico City. I don't know if he's going to be playing up against Trevor Bauer, but he might be. So that'd be exciting if that's the case. I just shot him a text message right now, and I'm just waiting to hear back if he is going to be playing against Trevor Bauer. So, I guess we can catch him. We might be able to catch him on TV. So if we can, if they do air it, I'll definitely, see if we can put it up on our social media so people can take a look at Kurt Hader pitching.
That would be cool if we could do like a live stream and watch the game. And we can all kind of comment on it. You know what I mean? And,
that would be fun. I'd like to toot my own horn, though, considering Shohei Ohtani. He did buy, now that he's, obviously $700 million contract, went to the Dodgers about 5 or 6 months later. he just bought himself a house in La Cañada, Flint Ridge, which is a beautiful community in Los Angeles, but it's very inland, right? So the reason why I want to toot my own horn is because when I said and predicted with Nick, and Nick actually did a good job too, because we basically predicted the same thing, that if he was to stay at the Angels, this was about 3 months before the contract went forward. We said we didn't expect him, if he was going to stay in Orange County, to live along the beach. We thought, based on his personality and his humbleness, he'll probably be more inland, which would be Irvine. La Cañada, Flint Ridge is an amazing area, city, but it's not the beach and it's not Beverly Hills, but it still has a lot about it that's luxurious. So he chose an inland community, very hilly. Have you seen the recent photos of that, Chris?
Yeah, I have. And let me just comment on something. I went back and watched the tape. I don't understand why you're saying you got the prediction right, because your prediction was that he stays with the Angels. The parent prediction was wrong.
No. I said assuming he stays at the Angels.
There you go. That was your problem right there.
It's the same thing though. It's assuming because I'm not going to predict he's going to buy in LA if I didn't know he was going to not move to LA. But I just
want to go back and look at the tape. I did predict he was going to go to the Dodgers, and so I don't understand how you're calling that a W. I made that prediction.
Well, you weren't on the podcast. It was just Nick and I.
I know. I listened to that one, and then a couple podcasts later,
I'm gonna play it back. Then I'm gonna play it back.
Yeah,
so people can hear also themselves. Purchasing a property soon. But just for the point of the game, let's go ahead and assume he's going to end up staying at least for a short term here. Mm-hmm. More than likely, he'll probably be going to somewhere within Orange County because Angels Stadium is in Anaheim. So somewhere realistically close, like Irvine.
Also play back a couple episodes later where I predicted he was going to the Dodgers. So
this is a complete different prediction.
Exactly.
I am predicting on yes, but you're making it sound like I predicted something wrong. I'm talking about home purchasing based on the topography and the area. I'm not talking about him moving to the Dodgers. But yes, you were right about him going to the Dodgers. Yes. Chill.
But I actually didn't bring it. But I didn't bring it up to you because I was like, you know what? At this point, he still thought he was going to be an Angels. I think that's the bias. You're an Angels fan, so I give that to you. And I wasn't even going to bring it up, but your own horn. Now I got to step in.
I thought he did. I thought he was going to leave the Angels because there's nothing there for the Angels. And I even said with Sway in other episodes that I think Mike Trout should probably leave the Angels too because he's probably not going to be getting a ring, unfortunately, anytime soon in his career if he stays there. And that's why you were saying how I want him to go to the Yankees, and you are correct.
So you know what I think we got to do to settle this dispute? Let's leave it up to people in the comment section and or Sway to determine with the accurate footage if we should give you a point for that prediction.
I think you should. Yeah.
So Sway and or the comments.
Look, yes, please go ahead and comment. But just to set it all up for everyone to understand, Shohei Ohtani could have bought anywhere, dude, in LA, right? Now that he's a Dodger. There's so many great areas that he could have gone to. Like all the Dodger players, most of them like going to Encino, Studio City, Sherman Oaks, Tarzana, Pasadena, Manhattan Beach, Hermosa Beach, and I can go on and on. Not many choose La Cañada, Flint Ridge. So that says kind of a lot about him. Pasadena is also like adjacent to it in a way, but he ended up buying in an area that's very private, and I think because of his humbleness, that's why he did it. And it was below $8 million, which is crazy to think of because he got such a big contract. Most people would have expected him to go even higher. So when Nick and I were predicting, I did say he would buy something from $8 to $10 million more than likely based on a $700 million contract. Okay. I will roll that tape. 8 to 10 million, or at least 10 million, is probably what he would buy today.
Yeah, probably. I mean, if he's going to be there longer term. I mean, you do make a good point on the Japanese culture there. I mean, at least most of them. Obviously, I'm generalizing, but to be a little bit more minimalist, around 10 million, probably a good price point. But I think probably someplace closer to the mountains rather than the beach. I think it'd be more likely, in my opinion. Just because it's probably more away from people. It's not as crowded. It's not as clustered. You know, less publicity, nicer views, more tranquil.
And okay, that's good. And that I would say that is a solid prediction based on what he got. Do you think it's relatively such a small value because of how his contract is structured to take a lot of the money? I don't know. It's like a decade later, right?
Yeah, 680 million
Mhm.
later on, right? 20 million up
Yeah.
front. I don't remember the exact contract
Mhm.
details as I did before. I know Sway does, especially because he's on his team. But I think it's still a relatively humble price tag, though, because Shohei has a lot to show for his credit of what he has, in his, because you don't need cash all the time. You just show it and how much you're valued at. And he could have easily bought something higher, but he bought something a lot less. So I want to share
Right.
those photos with people because it says a lot about him, the type of style that he bought too,
Mhm.
mid-century modern. So this is a $7.85 million home. It's a 5-bed, 6.5 bath, 7,327 square feet, which is humongous. Really beautiful house with the pool and very private. So you got the stone wall here, which is really cool. And the type of design and architecture is timeless piece. A lot of people love it. It's got those earth tones, but at the same time, it's very indoor outdoor living.
Mhm.
This vibes for some people, not everyone. Like this is it right here, the clear story windows, which is really
Mhm.
sweet. So it brings in a lot of natural light in. Any thoughts on this, just from what I'm showing here?
I mean, obviously, it's fit for a
Views.
baseball player. There's no question about that. Um, I think it looks beautiful, and obviously enough closet space for all his jerseys and
His
he's
wife.
married, right?
His wife now. Yep. Look at that.
I mean, that's great. It's a great, obviously for, would you say it was 8 million?
7.85 million. It was listed at 9 million last year. Then they did a price
Hmm.
reduction to 8.35 million.
Hmm.
So it's a 94% list price to sale price that they got. So they didn't get 100% at that
Hmm.
8.35 million, the listing agent, when he listed it. So it sold right under, about 6% under the actual list price. So Shohei also got a good deal on it because he could have bought it for 9 million. And what's really cool is the owner of this. Actually, before I share the owner, I want to share the Google Earth.
What was the property worth when the previous owner bought it?
So that's what's kind of interesting. He bought it, the previous owner, which I will say the name in a second. He bought it in 2018 for 7.32 million. So he didn't really see a huge bump, unfortunately, in the equity, which is really strange. I don't know the whole story on it, but I do want to quickly share what's really nice about Google Earth, which I recommend to all my clients to always Google Earth your house that you're looking to buy because it gives you perspective on the area outside, right?
Hmm.
So this is it right here. This is his house. So it's a really private community or neighborhood. No one
Google Earth
really. I don't
has
know
gotten better too with the
what's that.
pictures. Google Earth has actually, even improved over the years with
Mm-hmm.
how, like, it seems like there's like a adjacent angle going down now instead of a direct on top
Right,
of it, and so it provides a
right,
little bit more value.
right. What unfortunately, it's not letting me move around. Like I want to kind of see the different dimensions of the home so we can kind of move around it. But I just wanted to
Mhm.
show that it basically has like a street right here, and then the entrance is right here, so it's on a cul-de-sac. And there's a lot of like the lot is about an acre. I think
Mhm.
this is the basketball court that comes with it, if I'm not mistaken. But it's a pretty private the way it's set up. So he's got a big
Right.
hedge around him, so no one's really like looking in or around him. Um, but yeah, Google Earth is the best way to go.
Hey, let me ask you a question. How much square footage is it?
7,327 square feet.
That's a lot of square foot.
It's huge. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all like interior square footage, right?
Right. It doesn't include the garage or anything. It's just only the
Mhm.
interior living space. Um, But with that said, Adam Carolla owned this
Mhm.
property before, sold it to Shohei. And again,
what is
we only
Adam Carolla known for?
Well, I was just going to say, we only talk about this type of details that's made public, right? I'm not sharing things that are private. So this is all public information that was thrown out there. Adam Carolla is a comedian and actor, and he's pretty hilarious. If you haven't heard of him, I definitely recommend you look him up. He's been on platforms. You know, he talks to Bill Maher, a ton of people, talks about like how he's loved California for so long and now he's moving out. He's had enough. I think his daughter recently graduated from high school or is going to this month, and he's just getting out of here, going to Texas or Florida or Nevada from what he was saying on a podcast. So he kind of gave people a heads up that he was leaving, just like a lot of other people that are leaving, like yourself.
Yeah, and Adam Carolla is really garnered fame during 2 shows that he did back in the late 90s. Might have been some early 2000s, but one was like a really interesting show that they had. I remember listening to it growing up, and it was actually really educational for teenagers and above, young adults, because it was called Sex Line, and people would call in and say, "Hey, this is what's going on here. Do I have an STD?" And Dr. Drew would be there.
Really?
Yeah,
Oh,
and
wow.
then or it would be like, my boyfriend's doing this. Is this, assault or something like that, right? And it was a really good show. And obviously it happened after hours. And it was back like when we had satellite TV, watching MTV with my cousins. It was a good educational program. And it wasn't today with like a lot of media like that where there was an agenda. They were primarily just listening to, uneducated people on that subject and giving them, the prescribed researched information to try to help them with this. And there was no judgment at all. It was a really good program. And then what he's mainly known for, though, is the Man Show, back when Jimmy Kimmel was a little bit more based, when Jimmy Kimmel was really a comedian, and he wasn't really worried about offending anyone.
Signal and all that.
Him and Adam Carolla were like a great team. And so that's kind of what gave him his fame. But now he's kind of resurged that with podcasts and things like that,
Yeah, he's done a good job. He's had Sammy the Bull on. I mean, he interviews a bunch of famous people now at this point.
I think I like Adam Carolla. It would be good to own a property that he owned,
Yeah, probably comes with good vibes, humor. And it seems like Shohei's got good vibes too, so it's kind of a match. I always tell my clients when we're looking to sell your house, we always want to like have in a way, mirror image of your personality or you as a person, your type of profile, because whatever attracted you will attract a new buyer. Go ahead.
Yeah. My bad. So I just wanted to correct the record. It was called Love Line, but it was questions. That's the show he's on. But it was all about, sex. So that's why, you know what I mean? I thought it was that.
Okay. Gotcha. Good. Thank you for clearing the record. So cool situation happened. We're going to be releasing on Full Count Podcast on YouTube and social media. It's not a podcast necessarily, but I give Kurt Hayer a tour of some homes, and we kind of break down like what he likes, what he dislikes for him, his wife, and his children, or his child. And it's really interesting because it gives you a perspective as a buyer, even a seller too, what people are looking for. And it's just really fun. And I want to show a small clip, and then in a week or so, or maybe less, I'll throw out the full clip, right? So I'll share that now. See what you have to say, Chris.
Here.
All right, here we go.
So let's see how that goes.
We're looking at a $1.1 million home.
Be your first one.
Yeah, looks promising. I'm excited to check it out.
All right.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. You know what?
4-bed, 2-bath, 1,900 square
This
feet.
is beautiful. Honestly, I'm digging this
Are you?
vibe right now. I mean,
I like it.
for a 1960s, 70s home.
I like the
this is
main
pretty-
door.
This is pretty nice.
And then you got the high voltage ceilings in the main living area where this lot sits. When it rains, what's good is you have the runoff going down the hill, since we're on the, because when you were coming up the street, you were at an angle upward.
Yep.
So the runoff will go down
Nice.
without flooding.
That's really.
We're showing all the cool
That's
stuff of the
honestly,
house. Soon you'll see the
that's a
maybe
good
negative.
point. If I were to buy this home, I'd probably, close off this whole area and put a white fence around just so the kids can like run out and play.
Right.
And, just kind of extend it a little bit more.
And a gated estate,
Yep.
essentially.
Yeah. I mean,
I like that.
The fact that you can walk in here and it feels open already, like that's also great. I mean, I love the fireplace. It's really open. I actually like this a lot.
Interesting.
Well,
never
I like
seen
the
this
fireplace
before.
there too.
So this is
Yeah.
the primary bedroom, which
Yep.
is very cool because it has a bathroom. But you walk in and you have a sink, which is really strange.
Isn't that weird?
Because here's where your bedroom goes.
Yep.
Then you have a sink that you're looking at.
There's
Kind of apartment-like.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm getting like
my
a
spouse
studio,
doesn't like when you
right,
have those
but
bathroom
also,
stuffs not behind a door.
I mean, it's convenient.
That's
It
a
is
main
I agree.
Especially
turn
if I
off.
have to use the bathroom and she needs to wash her face.
He's trying to be
I want
positive
those
here.
conflicting,
Right.
but,
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, this is not a bad space. I do like the shower.
Listen to what he has to say
That
about
too.
it, though. It's pretty
This is
interesting.
honestly, this is very hotel. This is a very hotel feeling.
Yeah.
That's
Like
kind of an
Bravo.
insult.
I know, and you play in Mexico, so
Yep. I'm right at home right now.
you're right at home. Yeah. So I mean, I don't know how the change would be for something like this.
Trying to
remodel.
save
You
it.
could always enclose it,
Save the house.
but I don't know if that would, it would be too.
It could be where
It's got a nice
You could have like a
seat in the
like check it
shower.
out. You could have like a
Women
curved
like that
wall,
because they can shave
like
easily.
doing this to
So it is a
kinda
Right.
plus.
give.
See, I was saying about curving the wall, adding a
maybe.
wall.
if anything, I would probably somehow steal space from the laundry room, try to make this a master
I
bathroom.
see. Yeah.
Like, because there is some space you can.
There's the master bathroom behind the
in
bathroom
here.
that we just saw.
So you're comfortable knocking down walls, then you're
Yes.
open to it.
Yeah.
Great.
A bathroom, I mean. So, yeah, so we see 3 homes, and then he kind of chooses which one he likes most. It's kind of interesting. Obviously,
Sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to
Well,
say
I was
with the perspective in mind of his wife, being the one
Yeah.
that cares about it.
Well, no, I like how, so every home improvement show, it's like immediately they're like, all right, let's knock out some walls. That's like the
Yeah.
go-to for all home improvement shows. It's like, which walls can we knock out? And Kurt
Right.
definitely has seen some home improvement shows because he's in there talking about knocking out walls. But I do think that he was a professional home buyer in that sense. He had a vision for what he wanted to do to the place on almost every aspect.
Right.
Like if he lived there, this is what we're going to do. We're going to do this. A lot of people don't want to. I mean, a lot of people are ambitious when they're buying property, though, and they're like, "Oh, these are all the things we can do in it." But it's when you buy a new place, right? You're going to be spending like so much money on furniture and stuff.
Yeah.
If you're really buying a place and you go, all right, we can do this, and it's only going to cost us $40,000. Unless you have that money cash laying around,
It's
I'd
pretty hard to
seriously
do.
reconsider. Yeah, it's a lot to save up the money just to do that, especially after you just bought a home, put down a down payment. After you save up for that down payment, do you really want to be living on beans and rice to do something else
Right.
great to your house?
That's why if you can go in there with the idea in mind that you can buy it and live in it, and then
Mhm.
make the remodel as time goes by and as you go, that's the best way to do it. But like a lot of ladies I talk to, if they're married, right, or they have their or boyfriend, whatever, they always say, yeah, that's a good in theory, but a lot of time the guy doesn't want to like do the work. Like he just lets it go.
Right.
Or the other way around. Maybe the woman is the one that just doesn't want to do it, and then time goes by and it never happens. So
Right.
I understand why people want turnkey, like completely renovated and new,
Mhm.
but then you sacrifice yourself if you're on a budget potentially to not be in the best area. And in real estate, you want to go with the best location. So if you can sacrifice the aesthetics for a little bit, do that and go to the best location that you can within your budget.
Right. And for me, growing up, one of my uncles owned a drywall business. So I spent 2 summers doing drywall when I was in high school. And then one of my other uncles owned a flooring business. So I spent 2 summers doing flooring.
Oh, good.
With that uncle. And so I feel really comfortable if I had to, a lot of times if I have to repair drywall or if I had to install drywall, I'd feel extremely comfortable with my experience with that. and obviously some YouTube support just to re-educate myself a little bit on pitfalls
sure.
and upgrade my knowledge, because it's been 20 years since that occurred. Actually, not 20 years, but almost 2 decades since that's occurred, right? And then flooring, I feel really comfortable with that one as well, from ceramic tile to wood. But at the same time, I'm saying all this because even though I feel like I have the knowledge, I still think that if I had to refloor, the upstairs or something like that, that's a lot of work, and you have to move furniture out.
Right.
It is a chore, So it's still not great if you, I mean, I don't know. I feel like if you found your dream place and it's got carpet, maybe it's worth it. If you want to do the flooring yourself.
I think in your place you were pretty. You guys were pretty good. As soon as you went in, it was already renovated, right? Your whole place, so you don't have to worry about any of that.
Yeah, the one place we were looking at though, that's where I really put that into perspective, because it was like the upstairs was all carpeting, and we're really considering, and it was like older carpet, and so we were considering, all right, well, I guess I'm gonna be doing a lot of work, you know. And I wasn't really looking forward to that, but I knew we would have upped the value on the place in the process, and it would have been somewhere we would have appreciated more. And so I am glad though that headache is gone. I don't have to do that here.
Especially now that you're adapting to the new area and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. No, cool. Abandoned mansions. Let's do it.
Wait. Don't we have another place to look at, or no?
No, for what?
Okay.
Kurt?
Yeah. Okay.
That was it. I just want to show a small clip.
Actually, so I wanted to share something else with you. So I was looking at what I wanted to figure out was, whenever I was growing up in New Orleans, our home was a modest home. It was 3 bedrooms. It was a very standard home with a front yard, backyard, nothing amazing. It was in like the New Orleans suburbs. But it's what you needed if you wanted to have 2 kids and just a starter, situation, you know what I mean? And so my original home when I was growing up until I was about 11, 12, was $65,000. And this is back in 2002. So a long time ago, right? But so I was wondering, are there any homes you can get for under $100,000 in the United States, and a place that doesn't get really super cold? You know what I mean? And the 2 conditions I wanted to add to that is it's a nice area to raise a family, right? Mm-hmm. And the other condition I wanted to add was it's not ridiculously far from a city. And so I found this place in a place called Atchison, Kansas City, which is 50 miles. Actually, it's Atchison, Kansas, which is 50 miles from Kansas City. All right. And it was sold for $81,000 on April 9th, 2024. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath, 1,700 square feet. And this is right now it's estimated at $86,000. Can you think about how little money that is? You're 50 miles from an airport, so it's not like you're living in the wilderness here. It's a good area to raise a family. I mean,
say again the price. What was the price?
$86,000.
That's unreal. Wow. 62 miles away from the city of Kansas?
50 miles from the city of Kansas.
50 miles.
Kansas City. And again, it's just not a bad area. It's only 10,000 people in this town called Atchison. So it's a smaller town. But that means you can get involved in the community, like the sheriff knows everyone there, that sort of town. But
I'd be curious to know what you can get that for rent, and then you and I could just buy that and then rent it to someone.
Well, it was just sold April 9th, 2024, right?
Yeah, but something else in the area.
It's in 30 days, it's gone up 6% in value, according to Zillow. I don't know how these things work, but that's pretty insane, right?
That's very insane because I never look, to be honest. I never look online for like homes under even 500,000. But all I thought of when you were asking that was Detroit, Michigan, but it gets cold there and it's like abandoned cities almost, or areas, neighborhoods. But this is really cool, like a possible good investment. I think it probably is a good investment where everybody kind of knows each other. which is nice.
It's not far from the city, right? It was built in 1910. Now, is that something we would be worried about if we were investing in this?
No, not really. If you just do an inspection, you should be good. As long as the foundation is in good shape and the bones of the house is good, I wouldn't be concerned.
Now, here is one thing that may be of concern. It dropped 10% in from 2023.
They put it on the market in December.
Oh,
No,
yep.
They put it on the market earlier, right?
November 2023, and then they dropped the price 10,000 to get rid of it. They removed it January 2024. Then they listed it again 85.
It was originally listed though in 2023 of June. 125,000. Oh, so they didn't get. They start at 125 and they ended up selling at 82, 85. No, say the price again. I already forgot. 85,000. Yeah,
about 85, right? Yeah. And so, anyways, I just feel like when we're talking about 85K, if you had a remote job, like this would be sweet. You know what I mean? Like this might be a salary that you're making remote, 85,000. Like nobody buys the house as their salary anymore.
Right. You know? So whoever's watching and listening, you may want to consider going online and checking out properties out there. And
especially if you're a remote worker.
Yeah, let us know and we can call the realtor out there. I think they'd be very happy that we send them some business.
All right. So let me stop screen. In our last episode or future episode, depending on when we release the next one or the last one, Graceland lawsuit claims dropped hours after judge sides with Riley Keough, throws out foreclosures sale. That's something that we previously covered right before we figured out that this is the new news. She's the granddaughter of Elvis Presley, and she was able to get this foreclosure sale thrown out. Which is great. Graceland is saved, which is also the place Elvis Presley passed away. So it's a very historical building. He's the Taylor Swift of, I don't know, what is it, the 50s or the 60s? I'm not really sure. I'm not that old. But a while ago, he was the big deal.
I'm glad to hear that Graceland is saved. That's amazing. It's great news. The king of rock and roll would be happy. I didn't know he died there, though.
He is a legend.
Yeah, he's definitely good.
And I don't think that you read this. I'm going to cover it briefly, but I don't think you realize how it ties into real estate. I think you might have saw the headline and thought this isn't really related in our niche, but this is the issue. Let's say in Humboldt County, you bought a property. And then all of a sudden, your local government is hitting you with fines up to $1 million because the previous property owner used it for an illegal cannabis grow. That's the real estate tie-in. In Humboldt County, like this couple right here, they didn't engage in this illegal activity, but now
why are they in trouble? Because the previous owner.
Because there was at one point, officials have been now the officials are being sued in a class action lawsuit. The claim is that they're trying to squeeze every dollar it can out of legalized marijuana at the expense of innocent people. I think that's the lawyers for the class action saying that. Blue Graham 51 faced fines of around $900,000 after Humboldt accused him of using a greenhouse to grow cannabis without a permit, whereas he's actually using it to grow vegetables for his restaurant. Rhonda Olson, 64, has been hit with a fine of more than $7 million because of an illegal cannabis grow operated by the previous owners of her property. Think about that, $7 million. Does she look like she's able to? I have no idea what her financials are. She does not look like she's able to pay $7 million. I'm just going to put that.
Well, I'm not going to judge her on her looks, but just by that screen door, she probably does not have $7 million.
Yeah, that's to protect you from people coming in. Retired couple are facing fines of more than $1 million because the property they bought in 2021 was used by the previous owner to grow weed illegally. So this is kind of a big deal. And you know what? This is on par for California. This is something that would happen. in that area. But it's
I don't.
tragic.
I still don't get why they're in trouble though. If it was a used for marijuana illegally, why would the new owner pick up the tab on that and get in trouble with fines? I don't understand that. I mean, it sounds to me. I mean, I haven't read it, like you said. I didn't read it, unfortunately. But just by going off of the stupidity in California, it sounds like they're just trying to find a way to see who's going to be able to pay, scare enough people to go bankrupt, find a way to pay California to continue to allow California to spend ridiculously on all these programs and policies. So I don't know. It's my take on it, just from without reading it. Of course, I wish I read it, but I'm glad you did, so you can kind of tell us.
Right, and I just wanted to say for the record that we have not reached out to the county for comment, and they have not provided one. So those two things are true. But the Thomases were told that if they didn't demolish one of their buildings within 10 days, they would face fines of $12,000 per day. But they didn't have 180,000. They were told it would cost to destroy the barn, and are now facing $1 million in fines. So, it's related to the code. I guess any building that was ever used, since it was legalized, then
That's
the building's got to
ridiculous.
go down. Yeah,
It's ridiculous. They should go after the illegal growers in California, which there are a lot, and they're tied, from what I understand, with the cartels and everything like that. They should go after those people and leave these people alone. Like, I was in the Hollywood Hills the other day, right? And it's just funny because there's all these signs up there that I saw, and I forgot the terminology they used. But when you have your engine on and it's running and you're parked, it's illegal up there by West Hollywood, but in the hills that I'm referring to have your car on, let the engine run. Like, that's illegal. You get fined for that. But all the homelessness and crazy activities going on, you know, people look the other way. But when your engine's running, you're going to get fined. Doesn't make sense. It's stupidity.
Right. I mean, can you imagine if there's no other law that like a previous owner could break, really, that you would be held liable for? If somebody murdered someone before you lived there, it's like, it's not your responsibility to pay the price for that. You know what I mean? There's no other. I've never heard of any other analogy similar to that.
The only thing I can think of, which I don't know anything about this case, but the only thing I can think of is when you buy a property, the seller's supposed to disclose things to you. That disclosure is now kind of, if you're buying it with that being disclosed, now you're kind of accepting that as a matter of fact, and you're still willing to live in it. Unless some weird thing happened with that transaction and went to the new seller to take responsibility, maybe that's how they get them. But I don't know. I don't know the depth of any of that. So,
you know, that's actually a really good point. That's a great point. It could be something like that, and maybe they took that risk, and it's possible. Like you said, you don't know, but it's possible they took that risk, made the bet, and now they're being called for it. But either way, I still don't even think that that's like, you can even really. I don't think that's right. I'll put it that way, but it doesn't matter what I think. The next case I want to talk about.
It does to a degree. That's why we're on the podcast. You know, people might want to hear what we have to say. Comment if you appreciate what Chris is saying. If you agree with him or you think he's providing any value, I think you are. I would hope.
I know I am.
Yeah.
But so next up, I wanted to talk about. All right, so these new homeowners, they're older. They bought a house. The people they bought it for were flippers. They were professional flippers, right? And when you're a professional flipper, you're really trying to touch all the surface level things, right? Where, you know, you're putting vinyl over things. You're not trying to break the bank to flip. You're trying to cut corners. And as a buyer, you should be wary that if you're buying from flippers, things might not be the highest quality, but they may appear to be good quality, right?
Right. And you can tell too, like, I can tell when I go into a house to see if the quality of materials is legit or not. Things look brittle, or just, you can tell when something's cheap.
And sometimes they replace the cabinets. And this can happen.
Just all fell apart. Damn.
And all their stuff inside. And you can kind of tell, like, they're not really, I can't really tell from here actually, but it doesn't, if it's doing this, They didn't go in the studs. We'll put it that
Yeah,
way.
you pulled this up on Reddit, huh? Nice.
Yeah. So they didn't. I don't know what this was supposed to be, but if you're in the studs with like decent bolts, even a 1/4 inch, this isn't going to happen.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure exactly how they installed these. It seems to be very cheap screws that were kind of trying to hold this whole thing together.
Well, those are the screws you put on like a picture frame.
Yeah, exactly. And
Funny.
it works when you're like showing the house and there's nothing in here. But then you
Yeah.
load that thing up with all your coffee mugs that maybe even sentimental, and now you got this thing on the floor right here. And yeah, so that's something you got to be worried about, right? Whenever you're buying
Buying a
property, if you got professional flippers there, they might be doing some kind of low quality thing. But it's not really a way to prevent that, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, in a way, because the inspectors, they're your realtor probably too, or more so you want to open up the cabinets and see, like, you can tell if it's sturdy maybe, but I mean, maybe not completely tell, but I think your inspector will be able to kind of give you an idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And then I want to ask you what I got Sway's take on this. All right. And you didn't really comment. And I think I know why.
Well, that means I might not want to comment.
You don't want to comment? Okay.
I said I might not want to comment if he didn't want to comment. I wonder why, but you know what? This is a full count.
No,
podcast.
Sway commented, but you didn't.
I didn't.
No. So this is from Crestline.
Nick.
This is the most annoying baseball fans ranked. The New York Yankees are number 1. Speak for the New York Yankees.
I agree with that. I could see that.
Dodgers are only 4. Obviously, we know it's because the Houston Astros really upset everyone with their cheating ways, which, by the way, if you're not cheating, you're not trying, in my opinion. The Red Sox, I mean, Boston is kind of obnoxious when it comes to every sport. The Celtics.
But they haven't been good in so long, the Red Sox, so they should.
Yeah, but it was building up until what, 2006 and 2007? They were building up. They needed that win,
Yeah.
But I will say, like everything else, I'm very proud of my Padres. They're pretty mediocre on the annoying level.
Yeah. How about the Angels? Oh, they're not annoying at all. They're at the bottom.
In New Orleans, we had, I don't know if they still have it, but when I was growing up, we had a AAA team called the New Orleans Zephyrs, and they were the farm team for the Orioles. So I thought that's why you were saying that.
No, I didn't know that. I wish I did. I didn't know that. I didn't know.
Yeah.
I didn't really pay attention to Major League Baseball in sync with the AAA, like minor league or any of that. I didn't really even know about that until like.
Well, when you grow up in a place without a major league team, you kind of figure out who the minor league team. And I will say, growing up, the minor league games were so much fun to watch because, look, less talented baseball is way more fun than a bunch of professionals because you see there's mistakes. There's very little mistake. There's never a time when the first baseman doesn't catch the ball in Major League Baseball. He literally would not have never have his job. Like if you missed one catch from the second baseman, like you're done. Get out of the club.
Well, Gleyber Torres recently threw a ball from second base from second to first base, and the guy missed it. But that's because Gleyber Torres threw a really bad pitch, which they're saying Gleyber Torres might be moved down to AAA or not get signed again.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's such a major error in Major League Baseball that it's not really fun. But when you go and I learned this from playing softball with a bunch of adults, how much more fun baseball is when the throw from the shortstop to first base isn't a guarantee. In fact, it might even be 50-50. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because the pressure's on, the runners come into the first base. Like all of a sudden, baseball gets so much more interesting whenever there's that higher level of failure, the higher rate of failure, we'll put it that way, is a possibility. So minor league baseball was fun. But why am I a Padres fan and not anything else? It's that exact reason. I went from New Orleans. Technically, I was in Texas for a little bit after that, but I didn't really stick on to the Astros. And then whenever I joined the Navy, I went to San Diego, and I was there for like 16 years. I became a Padres fan because I didn't have a team. And that's why I'm also an Atlanta Hawks fan now, because there wasn't a basketball team at the time when I was in New Orleans, and also at the time when I was in San Diego, and to this day, although the San Diego Clippers used to be a thing way back in the day before I was there. But that's why I've adopted these teams, because I wasn't really loyal to any baseball team before that.
Right.
Long
That's
story
pretty
short.
cool.
So I kind of take, the artifact everywhere I go. Next place I move, I'm gonna have to grab a hockey team. Not really into hockey at the moment, but I will be if I move somewhere.
I like hockey. Hockey's fun. You have a cold beer in a cold setting. It's pretty nice. I like it.
Does Atlanta have a hockey? I don't even know if Atlanta has a hockey team.
No idea. I mean, I'm a hockey fan, but not like that. When I say a fan, I like going to the games, but I don't really look into much else.
Right. Yeah, me too. Like the San Diego Gulls, kind of like a minor league team, right? Such a good time.
I have a puck.
Good time.
Yeah, I do have a puck of them.
So next up, and look, this is just proposed, and I kind of feel like it's rage bait almost, because it's only proposed. And for this to take effect, what would essentially have to happen is not only would 46 have to be reelected, but there would have to be, a Senate and a House that is all blue. And that's the only way this is really going to happen. But because it is Congress who passes, who sets the budget in agreement with what was proposed by the president. So there's that negotiation that has to happen, right? But basically, there's this big deal that's going on right now with everybody reacting to the capital gains tax that 46 is proposing. And it will basically put capital tax rate higher than anywhere else in the world.
In the last 100 years, I think. The highest ever in 100 years.
Exactly. For a very long time. In fact, I think there's 3 other times in American history where it's been this way. And they're all related. They're all within like 5 years of World War II, which was,
wow.
Yeah, which is a time that I think made a lot more sense. But I think for me, raising taxes, I think the main thing with it for me is I feel like we can't send 70 billion foreign aid and then ask Americans for more money. That's something you do when your household is intact. That's something you do when you're not trillions of dollars worth of debt and sending money to foreign aid. And I think for me, that's where I see the problem with it. It's like, I see you irresponsibly sending money to the neighbors, Dad.
Yep.
Why are you telling me to go get a job at McDonald's now to help pay for things? You know what I mean? You're just giving money out to the whole neighborhood.
It's ironic because like today's Memorial Day, veterans, and we got a bunch of veterans out there homeless and other people homeless that should probably, be in a particular location and set up. You get my point. And that costs money to do that. And if we're going to be doing anything for spending, we should spend it on the Americans over other people in other nations. If in many cases, not always, in many cases. So I can agree with you to that. But yeah, I think I read into it that the capital gains on the top tier people over $1 million of gain from 23.8%, they're getting charged on that capital gain, the profit, up to 43.4% or 44%, which is a huge spread of a significant uptick of how much more they're going to get taxed. And that's horrible because it's a domino effect. It affects all these markets, people.
Right. Yeah. And I've heard a lot of the discourse on it. And, the one thing is, there's always.
I just heard about it today.
The way it's always said, to make everyone kind of chill out. These things are always said under the guise of, hey, don't worry, it's only going to affect the top 1%. Blah. They're always proposed that way, right? And that's unmarried from the illusion, or it's married to the illusion that what happens to our top earners doesn't affect everyone else. We're constantly told throughout our lives that shit rolls downhill, and only on this one subject are we supposed to believe that that isn't the case here. And I think I heard Peter Schiff, which, by the way, he was really wrong about Bitcoin and refuses to admit it. But Peter Schiff, mentioned something about, and I believe this, look, billionaires are still going to be able to do things and have fun. All of these things really just affect the corporations themselves. And then where do the corporations, if you tax the corporations, I agree with this point. If you tax the corporations, who's really taxed? The public,
Everyone
the
else.
middle class, the employees, the people who buy the products. That's where the taxes go. Ultimately, is the consumers. They're the ones who are being taxed every time you tax the corporation. Do you think the corporation is going to dissolve tomorrow? We're seeing
Heck
Wendy's
no.
now.
Especially when they have lobbyists.
Yeah, and we're seeing Wendy's now with their surge pricing and their automated live pricing. Like, it's coming from us no matter what. And
People don't get that though. People don't get that. You hear they say tax the 1%. We're only going to tax the 1%, and then people gravitate to it and they believe it, and then they don't see that affecting them. Just like the minimum wage for in California went up. Now, what these fast food industries are doing is they're getting rid of all their people. A lot of time I walk in and it's only one person, and then you're choosing from a machine. So the corporation, if anything, might have saved money because now their prices went up on their food. They only have one or two people in there, and they have machines now acting as the human, right? The other person. So it's unfortunate. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what else to say about that. But there's a reason why 46 is wanting this, and that's because of all the spending the other countries we're sending our money to, the school debt now being forgiven for a lot of people, and a lot of the socialized components of policy that he's implementing. So,
and you know what I really think is going to happen? I think that these kind of proposals in advance always get thrown out there. I feel like they're done this way to lower our expectations, right? So now this has been seeped into the public that it's going to be 45%, 46% actually. Now they're going to agree on 33%, and we're going to be okay with it because we thought it was going to be 46, and then now it's going to be, you know what? It's actually only 33, and that's how things are done. That's how I feel. Like they go with this really outrageous thing to go with something that they're still going to get the tax increase. We'll put it that way, but it's going to be half of what was originally proposed.
It's all a strategy. It's all a strategy. You're right. You go high and then you go down to something more realistic that for the people's ears to feel okay about. But that was interesting. You said that you've seen this kind of happen, or something to this degree of taxes go up right before like a war happens or during a war, which was interesting. Back in the day, the presidents would say, like under Lincoln and among other ones that I can't recall, but basically they would say, we're going to increase the taxes on income, or we're going to invent the income tax and yada, yada, just for the time being until the war's over. Once the war's over, though, they keep the tax there. So it was only supposed to be there for a moment, and then they leave it there. Same thing when they do all these other spending bills. It's only supposed to be there for a little bit, and then it's there forever. So nothing ever gets taken away when you throw out some type of program. Same thing with the socialized programs. You throw it out there to help for a little bit. It's meant to be taken back, but it's never taken back. They leave it there.
Right. I recently heard that, and I don't know if you've heard anything about this, but I did hear that LA has been testing the waters for some sort of universal basic income. Have you heard anything about that?
I thought I heard about something like that like 2 years ago happening, and then it didn't work. But I think that's more so in Stockton, California is where I thought I heard it, where they actually did the program and it failed miserably and they ended it. I don't really know too much about the LA one you're talking about.
Okay.
But I might be wrong.
Yeah. Anyways, so I have another question for you. We can wrap it up after this one. Are you familiar with the inverted yield being a prediction towards recession?
Yeah.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but according to what I read, since August 2022, we've had an inverted yield.
Yeah, it's either been at that time or the year prior, but I don't recall. But it's been inverted. The yield curve on the Treasury yield has been inverted for quite some time. So I think we've been in a recession, in my opinion. I think a lot of people in business, especially in the shipping industry, I was just talking to a friend of mine. Um, he says we've been in recession since I think I'd have to look back at my text, but I think he said 2022, 2021, because he's been seeing the shipment at the ports in Long Beach as being bad. Let me see if I can find it. Over a year. Yeah, he said over a year. So 2022 then. Yeah, inverted yield curve. Yeah. So technically we are, when that happens,
basically 2 quarters equals the recession, right?
2 quarters of GDP, which did happen. Didn't it happen last year?
Yeah.
And the 46 admin's like, well, technically it's not. In theory, I don't remember.
But technically it was, though. That was just you know what I mean? So it's like, yeah, no, technically it is. You might be adding nuance to it, but technically it is a recession. But
let's be honest, if 46 was a different person, they would have gone with it. Recession, it would have been all over the news. Social media influencers would be talking about it. But because it's 46, they're hedging him constantly. So
yeah. So according to some reading I was doing, that inverted yield is kind of a signal that within the next 28 months we're going to experience a recession of some sort, right?
Right.
And we're kind of looking at that, and we're in 10 months from now we're going to hit the 28 months, and we within 10 months according to that metric, right? I know we've been hearing for quite a while from everybody, oh, recession's coming. We've been hearing it for so long. I think we're desensitized to it, which is probably why we should be more worried about it at the moment, because everybody's so desensitized to it. But 10 months from now, we're looking in beyond the election, which would be very convenient for someone trying to be reelected, because either way you're good. Whoever your successor is going to look bad, or you've already got elected. You know what I mean? Reelected.
Doesn't matter. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You're in there.
And
it doesn't matter.
So it's possible you're just dragging this thing on, working with the Fed, who knows, to kind of maintain this really broken. Everybody can see it all around them at the grocery store. Everybody knows. We all know things are kind of fugazi at the moment, right? So I guess my question to you is, because I'm a positive guy, even in negativity, my question to you is, do you think there's anything, let's say a successor like 45 who may become 47? We'll see. I don't know how that works. Do you become 47 if you're already 45? I'm not really sure. But does the successor, is there anything that they would do that could flip it around? And I think there actually is, because I do think that if he won the election, I do think people would be more optimistic towards the market, and all of a sudden a lot of rich dollars would go into the market very quickly. And I don't know if that would just sustain it for another 4 years and then it crashes eventually again, but I do think that there would be a positive sentiment in the market if 47 was elected again. What are your thoughts?
I totally agree. Just the sentiment alone. The sentiment is almost everything in a way. That'll definitely automatically improve the market. The only backtrack to it, or the pushback on that sentiment, is now that 47 is now 40, 45 is now 47 potentially. There's going to be a lot of things on the news and on Instagram, TikTok saying how, oh my gosh, all the stuff that is happening now is going to be discussed when the other president takes over. So that sentiment that was all positive is now going to be, trying to be put down. So then the recession can really accelerate then. But I think if that 45 becomes 47, I think definitely the market will definitely improve. Spending will probably, by taking our money overseas, will probably stop to some degree. And the taxes situation would not be such a predominant thing in the administration.
And I personally think that, like, if it's election night and it looks like, from the standpoint of the House, the Senate, and or the president, however you swing that, I personally think if it looks like it's going 46's way, it might be a good idea to just get anything you can without getting any penalties out the stock market, because I have a feeling the whales are going to be doing that same thing, because it would make sense based on what's being proposed to get out real quick. And obviously they're going to jump back in, but eventually, within a year,
there'll be a lot of transactions of sales of stocks, bonds, real estate. If this goes through, they're going to sell everything before they get hit with that capital gains increase. So yeah, the market will accelerate for that year probably, and then after, things are going to be very dead and slow.
Right, and that's something that I would look at. Unfortunately, a lot of people's money is tied into their retirement plans in the 401k. So hopefully, you're not retiring soon if that's the case, because you're taking a hit. But if you're not retiring soon, you can always just let it ride. It's going to come back up eventually.
Let it ride. Yeah, don't. I wouldn't take it out, because it's all a theory and prediction that could be wrong. So
right. But Andrew, you look like you're falling asleep. That's good news. Sleep is
no. You made me uncomfortable. You made me uncomfortable with this, because it's real life. It's happening. So I live my life as positive as I can, but when it comes to stuff like this, I definitely try and hedge my bet. So Well,
let's do a prediction. I mean, we've done predictions to the last episode. I've included yours in there. When do you predict? Should we do a prediction like this? Do you predict a recession in the next 12 months? Yes or no?
Dude, so let me answer this with some context. You just mentioned Peter Schiff. A lot of what Peter Schiff says, I know people call him a doomsday guy. A lot of what he says is true, and a lot of things he calls out is reality. But because reality is fixed to some degree with what's happening with all the lobbyists and how politicians work and how code or rule of law should be followed, but it's obviously not followed. That's why what he says is not happening, because it's a lot worse than things are in many ways. So I think the answer would have been yes, it should have already happened, and it will definitely be in the next 12 months. But because things are so gray area, I don't know. It all depends. If this person 46 is to become 47, then maybe there won't be a recession in the next 12
months.
If
46 just stays 46 is what you meant?
Yeah, that's what I meant. Yeah, if 46 stays 46, as 46, then I don't see a recession more than likely, because they're going to protect that at all costs. But if 45 becomes 47, there's a recession likely.
Oh, so wow. I think the exact opposite. I think
we'll see.
I think so. This is good. We have opposite predictions. I think 46, if he gets reelected, then it doesn't matter at that point if we go into recession. Mm-hmm. This man can sleep through anything. He's sleeping well.
He already is.
You know what I mean? My prediction is, if 45 becomes 47, then because of the positivity from investors who may not personally like him, but they realize it's about to get based out here, there's going to be money dumped into the stock market. There's going to be, because they saw what happened in 2019, 2020, when we probably should have not been, the market probably shouldn't have been that well, but it got based out there. And I think people are going to realize that if 45 becomes 47, then all of a sudden there's going to be a tax rates cut. There's going to be, like, this whole thing about the capital gains.
You're right.
It's not going to happen. And so I feel like, look, do I think it's going to be forever that everything goes up? No. But I do feel like for the next 3.5 years, things are going to go up, and then artificially maybe, but nonetheless, they're going up. And then whoever takes over from there is going to have to deal with that. Look, everything has to go up and come down. What goes up must come down, right?
You know what I think is prolonging the downward movement is the wars. The wars going on that the U.S. is involved in a proxy to some degree. The military contractors in the U.S. are making a ton of money, and that's why our stock market's also staying elevated too. So it's all a game. It's very hard to dictate where things are going, but it is fun to predict. So I enjoy. I'm glad you asked that.
That's a great point. Our defense contractors are, I think, the biggest part of our GDP.
One of them, yeah, for
And
sure.
so I'm pretty sure it's the biggest part,
I
which is
think you're right.
why you'll
Why do you think it
never.
happened? Why do you
Yeah.
think this wars are going on, popping off? I mean, that's probably. I mean, that's. I don't know. I'd rather not say too much, but there's a reason because that's happening. That's why we're not in like a depression or some sort of high recession.